So I've moved this bee yard in from a field edge, and I just want to go down and I just want to take a look inside the nest just to see what's going on. I've looked into the nest about a week ago or so, or a week and a half ago, and I was finding very little open brood. So what I'm anticipating is these nests will be basically hatched out, and I'm hoping to see the queen starting to lay some more of those winter brood. So I'm just going to go down and take a look. So I'm looking at a colony that's roughly 8 frames of bees. So as that queen slows her laying down in the summer, this massive nest she's been raising throughout the summer starts to shrink. And as that nest shrinks, all that open space is what I use to backfill a nest and provide winter feed. Okay, this nest is rimmed nicely with pollen, feed on the outside, and the brood nest just nicely hatched out. Pollen on this side, empty cells, capped brood, just a little patch of capped brood. Here's some more capped brood. Lots of pollen around the outside with honey. No fresh brood. Lots of pollen on this side. This is fresh pollens coming in. It's really nice. So this hive's not starved of pollen. I'm just not seeing any fresh activity here. I haven't found the queen yet, but there's lots of bees to look through. Okay, this frame rimmed with honey, a lot of pollen, capped brood, no eggs. So this side's hatched out, rimmed with pollen. There's a few eggs. There's queen right. Just a small patch of eggs on this side. When I say hatched out, it's just something I do. I know eggs hatch and then the brood is raised and then they emerge. So I should be saying emerge, but I call it hatched out. It's just what I say, so you'll just have to put up with it. Here's a full frame of pollen. With empty cells in the center, rimmed with honey, and then we're getting into honey stores and pollen on the outside here. So there is very little activity going on in this nest. Some brood hatching out, which I would call winter brood, because we're in September. There is a lot of empty space, adequate feed on hand, adequate pollen on hand, big population of bees. So they've obviously shut down early on me, but there isn't much I can do about it. I've tried stimulating them. Here's some supplement here that they're just finishing up. Tried to stimulate them with supplement. That may have worked a little bit. I've provided syrup for them. We've One of the things that this summer I run into a very early shutdown in my honey flow. And I think I'm seeing the result of my early shutdown because of that. Full frame of feed, some pollen. What's on this frame? So we got it's rimmed with feed, no pollen, empty cells. Backfilling is going on here. Here's some pollen. So it's nicely rimmed with syrup and pollen, nicely rimmed, empty cells in the center. So they're organizing their nest quite nicely. Okay, here's more so an emptier frame. It's got some feed on the outside, pollen, rimmed with pollen and empty cells. Lots of pollen on this side, empty cells in the center. No activity. Hives are in a good mood today. Here's some emerging brood. Frame rimmed with pollen. The pollen is a good sign. They'll be using that resource later on in winter into spring. Okay, we've got some syrup on this side. Stored pollen. Nothing going on in the empty cells. We're going to start back feeding these colonies. It's going to be next week, and we're going to bulk them up for winter. We're going to fill up all this empty space that they're leaving, and I want this syrup cured. I want this hive to have their winter feed stored away before October. October sometimes comes, it's very cold, and the bees have trouble curing the feed properly when it's cold. So we've got a capped brood here that's emerging and empty cells, nothing's going on. These guys are hatching out on this side. So this looks like these guys are done. So I'm just going to do a mite wash now they got them opened up. I don't want to wash the queen. Got my little shaker. Here's some rubbing alcohol. So I don't want to shake the queen, so what I'm going to do is just look for her very quickly here. So this brood is all hatched out, pretty much hatched out, which will mean that these mites are all out from underneath the cappings, which will make our surveillance a lot more accurate. Oxalic acid treatment at this time, because there is no brood in this hive, or very little. We could start oxalic acid treatments now and target these mites. So what I want to do is just take a quick look in here, see if I shook the queen in here, because sometimes you do. And there she is. So I'm just going to pick her up gently. Put her inside the colony. Okay, so then just take a couple of scoops here. Get about 200 bees or whatever in there. See if I have any mites. And we'll want to shake the bees, you know, for about 30 seconds or so. My threshold this time of year, when the brood nest is hatching out, I want to be under 2.5% for sure. My threshold used to be over 5 about 10 years ago, but there's so much chance of viral infection now that I find that 5% is too high. I dropped my threshold down to 2.5%, and that seems to have helped. And there's 0 mites in there, which is really good. So there you go. My hives have pretty much hatched out. Looks like the winter nest is there. It's got me a bit concerned because I want to see bird nest moving into September. The reason why the nest is probably done now is probably the influence of this hot, dry weather we've had. The queen is just shut down. So we're gonna have to see where this all leads. That's a 2017 queen. Yeah, these are 2 queens produced last year, so we're not dealing with old queens. I've had my hives tested for nosema, and my nosema levels these last couple of years have been the lowest they've ever have been. My count is like 0.9 million spore count, and I'm happy with that. For the longest time I've been counting like 2 million, 5 million, 10 million, up to 75 million spore counts in my hives. It's identified as Nosema cerana exclusively. These last 2 years have been very predictable and very steady for my Nosema counts throughout the entire fall. And the only thing I'm not doing now is I'm not treating with fumigillin. So take that for what it's worth. So if there's no nosema problems in these colonies, there's no mites in these colonies, there's lots of pollen going on. These are queens from middle last summer, so they're young queens, youngish queens. They've had feed, pollen. There's no incoming pollen right now, but they have pollen stores inside. I've fed them supplement. That's all I can do for these bees right now. So I'm going to feed them up for winter. I'm going to backfill this nest and then quit worrying about them and just let them winter.